OpenAI keeps releasing new features, and it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. ChatGPT is literally just the tip of the iceberg. So today, I'll walk you through all of the different features that you can find on the OpenAI platform and generally the ecosystem as well, in a way that makes sense, like what tools they are and how you can use them. We'll cover the three main tiers today. Tier 1, ChatGPT Chat, the one that we're all familiar with. I'll give you some tips on how to get better outputs and sort of make it work harder for you. Then we'll cover custom GPTs, what they are, why you might need them, why them over the normal ChatGPT chat, and how to personalize them. And lastly, and this is probably the main point, is that we'll cover the OpenAI platform, the agents, the APIs, and how to sort of extend what ChatGPT can do for you. And of course, I'll show you examples as we go through this. Let's start with the most familiar tool, which is the ChatGPT window. Most people sort of just type in a question and sort of hope for a decent enough result. However, there are some tips and tricks that you can use to really optimize this. Firstly, I would suggest to implement the CRE framework. It's a framework provided by OpenAI, which basically stands for context, role, and expectation. To be honest, it's pretty self-explanatory. Provide the background, provide your role or the role that you want ChatGPT to take, and provide how you want the answer to look like. What do you expect to get? Is it bullet points? Is it full text? Is it an email? Sort of be as precise as possible. Now, let's do a quick example that should be pretty illustrative. And let's say it'll be quite a silly one. Maybe give me Python facts. And this could go two ways. It could give me facts about the coding language or about snakes. So let's see. Here it gives us facts about Python language, but oh no, in the actual context, we're at the zoo with a kid and we want some fun facts about pythons, the snakes. So if we say, I'm at a zoo with my kid, give me 5 fun facts about pythons. And here we are. This is exactly what we wanted. 5 quick and easy, simple facts that you could give a kid. And while this example is, super simple and very silly, I think it really very clearly demonstrates how much of a difference using the right framework can make. Moving on to point 2 is something that maybe free users are less familiar with, but if you're using sort of the Plus or the Pro versions of ChatGPT, is you're able to select models. So if you go to the chat window and you look at a little sort of drop-down arrow at the very top in the left hand corner, you're able to select different models. Sometimes it might say, GPT-5 versus quick think. I think at the moment, for me, it says instant versus thinking. And this is sort of quite an interesting one because on one hand, you can have very quick results, but they might be less nuanced, less in-depth, use less research. Basically, these answers require a bit less of sort of processing power for the model to give you the outputs. So if you want something quick, and something simple, and you don't really need any sort of deep research on the topic, then this is the perfect model to use. Whereas if you want sort of a more in-depth answer and maybe more statistics or maybe sort of more data behind the answer that you're looking for, then using GPT-5 or the thinking model would give you significantly better results. And this brings us nicely into the next sort of key feature of the chat window, which is if you click on the plus button at the very bottom of the chat, it opens up a tab full of advanced functions. It has things like deep research, agent mode, shopping, and so on. Now, the main one that I would suggest you try out is the deep research. Now, if you're on the free ChatGPT plan, I think you get about 5 of these a day. But if you're on the paid plan, then I think it's unlimited. It basically allows you to summarize, analyze, cross-check, and do sort of a much deeper dive and a deeper research, obviously, as it's called, into like a topic that you're looking into. So, for example, something where it would be quite relevant is let's say you own a small business and you want to launch a product. Let's say you do like little, I don't know, digital portraits of pets. You do them in the UK, you sell them on Etsy, and you want to find out is there real demand for this product. And this is definitely something I would not be asking the quick think model to do, but rather the deep research. So if I just paste that context in, you can see that obviously it's taking a much longer time to generate the answer than the quick think or even the GPT-5 or 5.2, whatever model is relevant at the moment. You'll see a much more in-depth research that looks at not just a few random links on the internet, but more precise ones, I would say. So I'm a lot more happy with the answer it gives me on the deep research one versus the free one or the GPT-5 one. Now, once you're more comfortable with these sort of structured standard ChatGPT chats, you can move on to the customized GPTs, which you can find in the menu under GPTs. In general, custom GPTs basically allow you to create a more personalized or more sort of niche or specialized version of ChatGPT chat, which may include information not just sort of general knowledge level, but the additional things that you have provided or someone else have provided if they created the agent. You can sort of think of them as a like a personal assistant, so to say. It's a little bit more personalized. Now, a question that probably you'd be asking, and definitely something I had asked when I just saw this feature, is why would I just not use the chat GPT, the standard chat window? Why do we need these GPTs, sort of like App Store type thing? And the reason actually is that it remembers your instructions better. So if you provide sort of similar instructions on the chat versus as more like baked in instructions to this agent, it performs significantly better. It remembers them better. Equally, it's a lot easier for it to remember the information. So, for example, I don't know if you've noticed, but when I put in like files or data or documents into my ChatGPT chat, it sometimes struggles to remember everything that I wanted to, especially if there are too many files, too much information. Like I'm talking more of a chat that goes on for months rather than, a day or two. Whereas when you're using a custom GPT one, it doesn't have a problem with it. So that's great, but how do we actually use them? So there are two ways you can think about it. One, you can use the already existing ones, and two, you can create your own one. So for the already existing ones, you just go onto that GPTs tab. It opens, you see sort of like an App Store, Google Store like interface where you can select different GPTs. They're mostly created by either OpenAI or community members, and you can have them specialize in writing, productivity, image generation, and so on. To be honest, personally, I didn't find this feature that useful, at least the ones that have been created by other people. I mean, maybe occasionally for a very sort of niche, like Excel question or something, it could be pretty good. But to be honest, as the sort of ChatGPT models themselves get better, this becomes a bit less relevant. However, if you're in the free plan, you're not able to create your own GPT. So this is the feature that you could trial out. But to be honest, the main one, the one that has made the biggest difference for me personally, is only available to those who pay for ChatGPT, unfortunately. At least at the time of this video, that's the case. Maybe eventually they'll change it. So how to create and use your own. Honestly, it's super simple. I will probably make a video sort of separately on this topic, but I'll give you a brief sort of explanation right now. Basically, you click the three dots, you click create, and then you have sort of the create tab where you can chat to the chat window, sort of describe what you want it to do. And the additional, you have the configure where you can add the logo, the description, some further instructions, and key knowledge. So you can upload sort of as many files as you want, any type of files, depending sort of on what purpose you want it to do. So, for example, for me, I will be making a weekend planner because I live in London. There's so much to do. It's so difficult to keep track of everything that's happening in the city. And sometimes I just don't have enough time to plan the whole sort of weekend, start to end. And something like this was super helpful. So, I will make a video where I do this in a more detailed way. But sort of basically, this is what it would look like. You can always edit it, you can add actions. But for now, we'll just keep it basic. So in the end, you can see the preview, or you can actually use it after. It will literally look just like the chat window, only it's specialized in the topic that you've set. It'll follow the instructions that you want. It'll give the response that you want in terms of the style, the type, the format, and so on. Now, if you think of custom GPTs as more like personal assistants, the OpenAI platform is where you can really leverage the OpenAI ecosystem to the maximum extent. The OpenAI platform brings it all together, the APIs, the agents, the integrations that allow you to automate, to scale, to extend what ChatGPT can do. It's definitely a bit more relevant for the developers or the coders potentially. However, I think this is very, very relevant to sort of have a very broad understanding of it as well. Even if you don't write any code, don't create any systems, any workflows, I think it's essential to understand how it works at least. First things first, how do you get there? You go to the OpenAI platform website. I'll leave the link in the description if you're struggling to find it. And this is basically what it looks like. First time you see it, it looks a bit confusing. I was definitely overwhelmed, but do not fret. I'll walk you through sort of the main bits here. If you click on this little menu symbol right here, you have a whole list of things that you can read, look into, and do. But the key one that I would suggest we firstly go into is the agents. Agents are AI-driven workflows. They can work autonomously based on the parameters that you've specified. So once you build it or someone else builds it for you, you don't really need to touch it. It can execute tasks like doing analysis on your behalf, research, shopping, and so on. Now, to access them, we go to this Agent Builder Kit on the OpenAI platform. Definitely suggest reading through the text that OpenAI provides. It'll sort of explain the main functions, how it works, and so on. So this is what the workflow sort of looks like. You have a bunch of these little tiles, which are called nodes, and you have different functions within them. So at the beginning, you always have the start, which is the trigger, and that can be either you clicking run the workflow, it can be a certain time of day. For example, you set it to run at 10 a.m. every single day, or it could be sort of action triggered, like let's say someone writes you an email, and as soon as you get an email, you want, for example, this workflow to read through it and give you a quick summary of what the email is about. Now, you see all these different nodes here. They have different types, and I'll definitely make a video sort of covering this in depth. But just for your understanding, this is what an agent workflow looks like. Last but not least, and this is definitely a feature I've used the most out of everything provided by OpenAI, is the API key. This basically allows you to connect to ChatGPT programmatically. So you're able to run it in your scripts or in your apps and sort of have the same level of conversations as you would with the ChatGPT chat, but programmatically. This definitely saves a lot of time, especially for something like if you have a big database of, let's say, company names and you want to find out some information about them. Instead of copy pasting this information back and forth to the chat window and back, you can set ChatGPT to basically auto populate your data back. The OpenAI ecosystem in a nutshell is basically 3 tiers. Tier 1, the chat function, Tier 2, personalized custom GPTs, and 3, the platform, which includes APIs and agents. And basically, each of these levels builds sort of on top of each other, increasing in complexity and also in the functionalities that it offers. If I had to pick just the one thing that you take away from this video, to be honest, it would be to use the CRE framework in the ChatGPT chat function, as it will significantly improve your results. If you're interested in learning more about it, I have a whole video covering CRE framework, but also the next level called the Create framework. I also have a free guide, which you can find in the description below, which will cover both of those in detail. And if you want more easy and practical ways you can leverage AI, subscribe.